Here, then, is the tale. Between the swish of the tides when giants knelt down and became mountains. When they fell scattered on the land like the ballast stones of the sky, yet could not hold fast against the rising dawn. Between the swish of the tides we will speak of one such giant, because the tale hides within his own. And because it amuses, thus. In darkness he closed his eyes. Only by day did he elect to open them, for he reasoned in this manner. Night defies vision, and so, if little can be seen, what value seeking to pierce the gloom? Witness as well this. He came to the edge of the land and discovered the sea and was fascinated by the mysterious fluid. A fascination that became a singular obsession through the course of that fated day. He could see how the waves moved up and down along the entire shore, a ceaseless motion that ever threatened to engulf all the land, yet ever failed to do so. He watched the sea through the afternoon's high winds, witnessed to its wild thrashing far up along the sloping strand, and sometimes it did indeed reach far, but always it would sullenly retreat once more. When night arrived, he closed his eyes and lay down to sleep. Tomorrow, he decided, he would look once more upon the sea. In darkness, he closed his eyes. The tides came with the night, swirling up round the giant. The tides came and drowned him as he slept. And the water seeped minerals into his flesh until he became as rock, a gnarled ridge on the strand. Then, each night for thousands of years, the tide came to wear away his form, stealing his shape. But not entirely. To see him true, even to this day, one must look in darkness, or close one's eyes to slits in brightest sunlight. Glance askance or focus on all but the stone itself. Of all the gifts Father Shadow has given his children, this one talent stands tallest. Look away to see. Trust in it, and you will be led into shadow, where all truths hide. Look away to see. Now, look away.
Welcome to 10 Very Big Books, a Malazan read-through podcast. My name is Peter Bond. I've read every book in the main series. However, my co-hosts are reading the series for the first time. With me today is my friend and closest confidant, India Jones.
Good morning.
And our producer, AJ Fileri. How are the levels?
They're good. You wrote in the notes that you weren't going to ask me, but...
finally, it's the Warlock King himself, Joshua Baker. How are you?
Myself and my cabal of hostage firstborn sons are all doing fine. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Robert, for sending that in. And, excuse me, does anybody know what time it is? Anybody? Does anybody have a watch on them?
It says 8:37 Eastern time.
That's
for me.
I don't know if you want
correct.
me to...
That's correct. It's midnight tides, baby. We got so many brothers up in this book. You know, I can't even count them. What's a Warren? I've never heard of it. I've never heard of this thing. The Deck of Dragons doesn't exist. That's right, baby. Welcome to Book 5, Midnight Tides. Here we go. It is midnight o'clock.
Okay.
Welcome back to book 1.
Yeah.
We've now set the time. We've set the counter back to 1.
Feels good. Feels good to be here.
I love that energy, Pete. Pete, I loved that energy. That was perfect.
Thank you. So how are we all feeling today at the start of this big, beautiful book, this very big book?
I need more coffee. I really made a mistake. I feel great. I would like to say that I am acquaintances with a currently jailed, convicted felon who committed a multi-million-dollar investing scheme, and I'm now learning about his case. I am so prepared for this fucking book, and I did not know this would ever come in my life.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, it's finally a time for you to apply this knowledge now, isn't it, Josh?
I'm very excited.
That being said, I think it's time, without further ado, to get into the meat of Midnight Tides and start with the prologue. Long ago, Crawled a Merlin is falling apart, and the Tist Edur are invading. Together with the Tist Andi, the Edur have defeated armies of the K'chain Shamal. The Edur are led by Skabandari Bloodeye. He speaks of the K'chain Shamali's defeat and the relative weakness of the T'Lanai Mass and the Jagat. Skabandari Bloodeye then betrays the leader of these Tisti Andi, Silchus Ruin. The Tist Edur slaughter the remaining Tist Andi forces. Skabandari takes Silchus Ruin to an Azath house and plans to hunt down the remaining Tist Andi in this new world. Elsewhere, the elder god of the sea, Mael, speaks with the Jagat Gothus. Gothus is cleansing the land after the battle, and they speak of the Edur's betrayal and Skabandari's plan. Gothos is asked to preserve this land, and he agrees. Finally, a sword maker from a Mekros city named Withel awakens on a mysterious island. Here, Withel is led to find the crippled god. The crippled god will free the man, but only after he forges a sword. A very particular sword.
Can I just say, that whole prologue made no sense to me.
Oh, the whole thing?
The beginning part was very hard for me to understand who was on what side. And
well, yeah.
But you did just explain it, thank goodness. But then I was like, but why? It always feels like there's more Tisti Andi than there are Tisti Edur. So what?
I imagine we'll find out.
Oh, I actually think it answered tons of my questions about that India, and what I got out of it, which could be very wrong, is that, well, first off, all the Tista Edur in that prologue, as of the books we have read right now, I am pretty sure are frozen in ice eternally, is my guess based on what the Jag hit was doing. And that has left, and I believe that like the Tisti Edur that we then meet, I don't know if they're in the world as we know it or not, but if they are in the world that we are typically in, they're very far from the action we've been having, I think.
Intriguing.
To jump in, I think, yeah, they're definitely where we meet up with the Tist Edur in chapter 1 is definitely far removed from the rest of the action of the story.
Yeah.
But I think frozen in ice is maybe a little off.
Okay.
So,
well, he was using magic, and the guy was like, "You're going to freeze him," and he was like, "That's what we do." So I assumed they were just like all frozen to death or something.
I mean,
I missed that.
That is how the Jagat do. But now that we've kind of slipped right into it, I guess the way I was initially going to frame it is that, I think different prologues frame books in different ways, right? Especially throughout this series. And this prologue is most reminiscent to me so far of the Memories of Ice prologue, because it's like this ancient history and it's describing kind of cataclysmic and epic events. Mm-hmm. So, Josh, I wonder how it struck you reading about the aftermath of the Tist Edur invading this world.
I'm not 100%. I thought it was a really cool prologue. Honestly, I thought it was really interesting. I enjoyed we hear so much about these ancient races that could change Shamal, the Forkula Sail and stuff, but like, and I always kind of knew that the Tista Andi and Tista Eater were like a little newer than them, but it was very cool seeing like the aftermath of like why we don't see those creatures in the world, you know? It's like the end of this like basically genocide against them. And also, we've never seen large groups of the Tisti besides like the ones under Animander Rake, and even then I wouldn't say that it's like a gigantic amount of them. So to like hear the numbers that they came and fought in this was really interesting. I was like, I did not realize how giant these civilizations were prior to like this cataclysmic war they just took part in.
Yeah.
So, and also, hold on. I feel you guys had to see the betrayal coming, right? It was too clear to like, I felt it was so clear that like the reason the Tista Andi had been so battered and there were so few left is because the Tista Eater just like super set them up for failure, right?
Well, I believe it's established in the prologue. They like showed up super late to the battle, and Scavendar rolls in like, sorry, we were a bit caught up on the way.
And they formed a ring of protection. I was like, that ain't no ring of protection. They're gonna turn inwards and kill those boys and girls. That's not okay.
Inch, how did you feel about this prologue that thrust us so into the heart of this Eater invasion? And I just want a quick note, Josh, that they're not necessarily younger, but they're coming from a different place. So, you know, I think it's worthy to note.
That's true.
Right?
It's true. Newer to this world. Yeah. Yes. Okay, you're right.
So, Inch, well, how did this strike you?
It didn't strike me in any particular way. I was confused for the whole beginning. And then he started to kill them, and I was like, no! So I don't know what this means for the grander story. Honestly, I believe that if I had a better memory of the other books and like remembered anything, that this would be very relevant to me. But alas, I don't. I just want to understand what happened, why it happened, and what it really means, because I don't remember. But am I wrong for not remembering that, or is it like really not that clear yet?
No, this is a lot of new information. I really love this part of the opening when Scavendar is there and he is talking about the Tist Andi that have already made it into this world, or these other Tist Andi that he wants to hunt down. And he's like, well, I guess Animander Rake's around, but he's disappeared. I'm not going to worry about him.
I was like, how dumb are you? Who do you think got these Tist Andi here?
Well, yeah, he's like...
we need to pause and rewind when you guys are ready.
Sure, hit me.
Rewinding noise.
Thank you. So, yes, that brings me to a point that I was curious about, because who are the three sons? And Darist is definitely that guy that was on that island, right?
So we got Animander, we got Andarist. He's the very sad one on the island who's now dead. And
yes.
And then we had Silchus Ruin, who was this last one who just got killed.
He was the guy who turned into a white dragon, I think.
Yes.
And Animander Rake was not there.
No, correct. He's not there. And it's worth noting another fact. Silchus Ruin is albino. So
yes, that's why his dragon was white.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So
Silchus Ruin and his followers of the Tista Andi fought in that battle with the Tista Eater and then were betrayed. And then Animander had already led a huge amount of the Tista Andi to this world. But this guy who what was his name?
Scavendari Bloodeye.
Yeah, he just didn't like put two and two together. He was like, nah, Animander's just like living somewhere. Definitely not here. Definitely not here.
But he is here?
Yeah, because they're in our world.
Yeah, and I think Golthos mentions that later on.
Because the Exchange Shamal and the Jaghut are in the world that we've, the Malazan world that we know.
You know, you guys are saying that there's another world, and I think you're confusing me.
Well, let's just... It seems like you're trying to leave it a bit. Let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this then, Inge. So at the end of it, we have all of this high stakes, epic tisk change, sky keeps and then what's cool. That? We're awoken on an island, and it's this Withel, and who's this guy? We don't really know. And then it's the crippled god. He's here, and he has a small sword. He has a sword he once made. So what do you think the crippled god's getting up to, Inge?
Peter, that is such an unfair question. What is he? I don't know. He's doing
fucking nerve, Peter.
Yeah, I don't know. He's just causing chaos, being the crippled god, living his chaotic life. He's just, I don't know. If you're telling me that whatever plan he's like cooking up for later on was like developed like way, way, way back when, I'm going to be very upset.
So,
I have a question. Wouldn't it be crazy if the crippled god wasn't the bad guy? I was thinking that during the prologue. I was like, he seems really chill in the prologue. Maybe, what if he's like not actually the worst person? I don't think that can be true because it's really being set up that he's terrible, but like pretty crazy. Crazy.
AJ, before we move on, I wanted to give you a chance to share any thoughts about this prologue. Sets up a lot of the book, sets the tone of the book in some way.
No, I thought it was good. I liked it. I had commented, I think, in our chat, and then I also think on the Discord, this was the first prologue I read, and I like knew what was going on in a way that I could like connect it to current events. Like it wasn't just amorphous, like here are some events that are happening somewhere, but you don't know how it relates. Like you compared it to Memories of Ice, but even in the beginning of Memories of Ice, it was like, you know, we saw the dominant, the dominant.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Panin and the twin, the Panin and his sister, and then the elder gods. So
yeah,
Kalaba.
and so like all that stuff happened, and it was like related to Memories of Ice in a very direct way, but like we had no, you know, idea at that time. Yeah. But with this one, it's like, okay, yeah, this happened. I get it. Like I understand that this Edur betrayal is going to now pervade the rest of this book. And I wasn't expecting the crippled god, so that was fun.
Gotta love when he shows up.
Yeah.
I like that he's hanging out on an island now. It like kind of got a new beachy vibe going.
He's got an island vibe, yeah.
Also, I'm always a sucker for like, I'd like a cool sword that's just for me, and I'm very excited to see what his cool sword is.
I have an open question regarding this crippled god.
Okay.
I thought that he was supposed to be chained somewhere, so why is he relaxing on an island? Is this before or after?
I don't think Peter's allowed to answer that.
All right. Moving right along then.
Well, I mean, I guess it would be before, right? Because every other time we've been around him.
Oh, no, I assumed this is current times.
Oh,
motherfuckers.
Well, because he's
right.
he's like coughing and stuff, and he's talking about slowly healing, which makes
he's
me
not
think that
coughing. He didn't cough.
Yes, he's not coughing because he's slowly healing. So to me, that says that this is in the times now when he is like getting better, and his
yeah. And he comes from Withal comes from the sunken Mekros city that we see in Memories of Ice. That Lady Envy walks through. Yeah, Lady Envy walks through it.
I will say it's worth noting. You can check the prologue. This occurs on the
1159 or 1161 or something.
1159 year burn sleep, 3 years before the 7th closure,
which is the thing that we are now about to get to with the Tista Eater stuff and the Lethari stuff specifically.
Yes, they discuss it in chapter 2.
Yes. Okay. So that's 3 years before. Well, I guess we don't actually know what year it is in terms of burn sleep with the Tista Eater because they use their own system.
So it's not very long ago. We'll establish that.
Yeah, this is like recent because I think the first book happens in 1159, or maybe the newest one we just read was 1159. One of them does.
So with that timeline clarification,
I would not say it's a clarification, but
I'm at the same place I was 5 seconds ago.
Yes.
Okay, now is the part of the show where we like to list off all of our new patrons since the last time we recorded, so I will do that right now. Very special thanks to Nick, Lucas, Adam, Tyler, John Doe, Kim, Jared, Steve, Danielle, Alex, Nanisha, Simon, Michael, Amira, Anonymous, Tom, William, Scott, Jeff, Simam, CJ, Bjorn, A1 Hot Mess, and Jake. Thank you all so very much for backing us, and thank you to all of our generous patrons over on our Patreon. We thank you so much. If you want to back us on Patreon, you can head on over to patreon.com/10verybigbooks. Any amount you can give is appreciated, but please don't donate to us if it puts you in any kind of financial distress. The show will still happen even without the donations from our generous patron donors. The donations just allow us to do some more and make some more content for the show. So we really appreciate, again, all of our generous patrons. That link, one more time, is patreon.com/10verybigbooks if you would like to back us. So that being said, let's get back into the episode with Chapter 1.
Chapter 1. A giant discovers the sea. They kneel and are covered by the tide. trust in it, and you'll be led into shadow, where all truths hide. Look away to see. Troll Sengar runs to find his people. Troll has spotted people from the south harvesting seals. This seal harvesting breaks old treaties between Edur and the south. Troll worries, though, what this will mean for the delicate peace, considering the Edur have recently united under the warlock king Haned Mosig. Arriving in his village, he meets his younger brothers Benedus and Rulad. Rulad is showing off and trying to impress Mayan, their eldest brother's betrothed. Troll takes Rulad with him to tell the news to his father. Their father sends them to tell the warlock king. Troll thinks on the politics of an impending great meeting between the southern Lethari and the Tist Edur. Troll speaks with his elder brother Fear Sengar. They speak a bit of the warlock king's vision and Troll's reluctance to fight. And they think of the history of the Edur and Andy. The slave Udanis thinks of his past as an indentured sailor and how he came to be enslaved to the Sengar household. He then sees a white crow and runs. Troll meets with the council and Haned Mosig. Together they speak of the great meeting and crawled a Merlin. The Warlock King says they will go ahead with the meeting as planned, but unveil something unexpected. Featherwitch, Mayan's slave, is casting tiles for other slaves. Udanis arrives to warn them of the crow, a bad omen. Udanis thinks of his feelings for Featherwitch, but then an invisible creature attacks Featherwitch. A Wivel that Udanis attacks, saving Featherwitch. Udanis feels himself wounded and blacks out. The Warlock King speaks to the Sengar brothers in private after the council. He has had a vision of the north, and the brothers are to travel there. There's a spire of ice with a gift for the king, and they must not touch the gift themselves. They begin to speak more, but the news of the Wivel interrupts. Udanis is in shadow and hears Featherwitch. They speak of love and of Earth Sengar's protection. Her power is drained, and they go back. Udanis can hear a second heartbeat. The two slaves go and approach the Sengars and the Warlock King, speaking of the tile casting. Hannon wonders if Udanis has been infected, and suggests he should be watched over. So, Ange, when we first meet Troll Sengar, he's so far removed and he's such in a different state. But this story really begins with him at his home. We meet his family and all of his brothers in this first chapter, and it all starts with him kind of seeing this seal and this illegal seal killing. And I wonder how you feel coming to this character, who I know you kind of bounced off in a way in the fourth book, starting from his home and seeing his family and starting at this new point.
Yeah. I want to start by saying, like, thank God he is not as, like, melancholy and boring as he was in the last book. I assume because his circumstances have not gotten very shitty yet. But it was so, his character is, like, which is so interesting, way, way different than his character in the last book. He's, like, you know, just a kid with some brothers, like, living his life.
Yeah, he's got things going on, and he's, like, you know, he's got family, you know?
Yeah, and so that was interesting and unexpected. I do have a question about the overall society situation here. Amongst the
Edur.
Yes.
Okay.
So as I'm, like, was reading the very, very, very painfully drawn out description of where they live, fading in and out, I couldn't tell if it was, like a nicer, like, area, or if it was, like, kind of shitty and people were starving. Because, like, it kind of I just couldn't tell the difference. I couldn't distinguish what kind of vibe were in there. Are they doing well, or are they not doing well, is my question.
My impression is that...
And with one more thing, too, on top of that, the Lethari, are they doing well, or are they not doing well? Because I can't freaking tell.
Well, I think it's going to come down to a contrast between kind of two different things and what you might say by doing well. So I think the Edur are obviously a more tribal and society, and I think from how I understand, more of their economy and society is built on fishing and gathering and hunting, as opposed to the Lethari society, which is very different and obviously has a more complex economic system going on than hunting-gathering. So I think it's a contrast between a type of tribal society, which I would say this is very different than some of the other cities we've been in, like Darujistan or Erlatan or other kind of bigger places we've been in past books. So I guess I don't know if that answers your question.
That answers my question. That does answer my question. Where do they get the Lithari servants from then? Where do they just take them?
Yeah, well, Udonis talks about that when he's like thinking about his past as going from
a sailor,
indentured sailor, to being captured, and now he's a slave.
Oh, he got captured? Or I thought he just left.
My memory was that he was...
I thought he was just given.
He got captured.
Yeah, I was pretty sure he was captured.
On the boat. Yes.
His captain poached a couple whales or something.
Too many whales.
Yeah.
His eyes were bigger than his, than his boat.
Well, I didn't really feel like Andy answered my question, so I'd love to hear it. But I did want to just quick note, one of my...
I did answer your question.
Yeah, you're right. You said you were. Troll is very different in this first chapter, and yeah.
I like it better. If that's what you're looking, do I like it? No. Do I like it better? Yes.
Yeah. So okay. You're right. You got me, Ange.
Thank you.
So coming to Josh. Josh, you're in a unique position on this podcast.
Why?
I believe you are the only older brother.
Oh, I am. Yeah, I'm the only oldest brother, or older brother, for that matter.
So, I have brothers, but you have younger brothers, and I
have younger brother.
Yeah. And I wonder, Troll comes back. He sees this seal-based crime, which, let the record show, I'm so excited about the seal crime. I'm going to talk about it a lot. So, getting on the record, I'm over the moon about the seal crime,
Oh, that's a rough... Okay.
So he comes back in, he sees Rulad, and then we hear about Fear, who's like also there, but then we also see Fear's betrothed, and we also meet Benedis, who we see later on. So it's like brother watch for Troll. What did you make of Troll encountering all these brothers and this introduction to Troll's family?
It was really weird because I guess I didn't think about it that much. It's just kind of reading. I think what more is strange to me, though, thinking about it, is that their brotherhood in this society seems much more formal. You know what I mean? You have very strict rules about what you can and can't say to your brother. It seems depending on if they're older than you or not, I don't Troll and Fear spoke candidly, but also not that candid. Clearly they're not laying it all on the field. I don't think these are very emotionally bonded brothers.
I agree with that. There's definitely a level of formal. I mean, the Sengars are a powerful family and tribe, the Hirith tribe.
Yeah, I'm sure that changes things too. I mean, I thought it was interesting. They're four very different characters. The one who's the B brother, what's his name?
Bennett.
Yeah, that dude rules. I like Benedis a lot. Benedis is just this is a lot of drama all the time. I'm just gonna be out here in the woods. Yeah. I'll catch you every few months.
And then what did you make of Rulad, who's kind of got a hole?
That kid sucks. That kid sucks so bad. Well, here's the thing. Here's what I feel about it. Here's where Josh Baker sits. I feel like Rulad has got to turn evil because he's one of two things happen. This dude either dies or just betrays Troll because he thinks Troll's too weak. I feel like that's the setup here, is that Rulad's only interpretation of his brother is that his brother doesn't like fighting, and therefore that makes him weak, which is pretty, I'd say that's a classic thing I've seen in books, is that relationship between brothers. So I'm interested to see where it goes. I've never seen it where it's the younger brother though who is thinking that about an older brother, so I'm curious to see where that goes. Also, I do not know to make of Fear. Number one, his name is Fear, so
that's
that really makes it tough. That kind of colors everything I think about him.
That's strong reading comprehension, bro.
Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah,
he's a little scary.
Yeah, so Troll and Fear kind of catch up, and as you said, I think there is a level of distance, but they also kind of lay out some of the political stakes, and I think we learn a little more why the seal crime is such a taboo. It's we learn more about the whole situation going on between the Edur and the Lithari, this impending meeting.
I'd like to take us into Josh's economy sector corner moment. They have a seal-based economy, and it feels very singular. And I don't really know if that's they really need to diversify their portfolios in this kind of world, because I mean, what happens if there's a seal pandemic? You know what I mean? And the seals all like become inedible. That's just as bad as them getting poached by the Lethari.
I guess the reason I kind of love the seal poaching plotline is because it is so intensely boring and mundane, and it's like really representative of like petty shit that actually causes big problems between actual nations and stuff. Do you know what I mean? And it's such an interesting contrast going from the prologue, which is like Sky keeps Tisti, it's like we're really doing it, and then it's like, well, these two nations can't agree about the seal rights, and it's like causing a real problem for all these people.
And I agree, it's lovely. I'm just saying if the Tisti Edur did not have an economy that was based upon one singular animal, then they'd be much better off.
So, Inge, then we come in and Troll kind of meets with the Warlock King, and we meet his council of hostage boy mages, and they speak about the general political situation and what to do about this impending great meeting between the Edur and the Lethari. And then at the end, he like pulls the Sengars aside and are like, "Hey, I have this vision. You need to go on this quest." So, what was your impression of the Warlock King, and what did you think of this meeting and this quest?
I'm scared of the Warlock King, and I don't know why he's picking these boys to go on this quest. And I think that he left out that bit of information, and that makes me nervous. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on that. I don't really know. I thought that the whole kind of meeting just kind of, it left me uneasy. They seem very... This man just seems very scary and very capable, and his shadow also seems very scary.
Love the shadow. I'm over the moon about it.
The shadow's spooky.
Josh, what did you make of this impending meeting? I think we'll talk about it a little more because we hear a lot more about it from the Lethari side in a way. But also these Warlock Kings, like, we're going to unveil this great power. We've got this plan, blah, blah, blah.
I think one of my favorite things in fantasy books is important meetings between important people where they each have their own plot, because not everyone's plot can work. And I just love that really self-important dudes are coming in like, they won't see this coming, right? And like, I'm excited for the Lethari's plan seems to be, we're gonna be fucking belligerent, and they won't know what to do about it. And the Warlock King's like, I'm gonna unleash the largest amount of magic anyone's ever seen on the face of the fucking earth. And it's like very big extremes there, and I'm very excited. Also, I love Hull, who's like, I'm gonna murder everyone and just start a war. Like, we've got such extremes, and I'm very excited about it. Also, we're going to get more into it later, but goddamn, the Lethari are the most boring fucking people. And I love
boring,
it.
Josh.
I love it.
So
they're playing checkers in a game in which the Warlock King is in VR playing Beat Saber, right? like that is we are in the extremes here.
So there's a lot of troll-focused stuff, and we learned so much about his family and the situation from so long ago, and it's really the starting point of this story. But also part of this chapter, of course, is the slave Udanis, who we first meet, kind of seeing this omen and thinking on his past, and then he goes in, he gets struck by this Weevil when he's trying to save this woman, Feather Witch, who he has these feelings for, and then... It's a bad time when he gets hit by the Weevil, and it's bad vibes all around. And AJ, I wonder what you think of this character who sits apart from not being a part of the family that kind of centers the storyline. He's on the fringe, and he's kind of a different perspective into the society. So, What did you make of Udanis, and how did you feel about being introduced to him as a character?
Yeah. First, let me just say I'm like 100% sure it's Udanas, not Udanis, because it's got the double A's at the end.
Udanas?
Udanis.
It's definitely not Udanis because there's
it's definitely not Udanis. That's really what I'm getting at. No, I thought it was a really interesting perspective because, like you said, he's just extremely unrelated until the end when he's like, "Hi."
What if it's Udanis? That'd be fun. Udanis.
Udanis. I don't know. I don't think so. I think the double A is really what's getting me there. I think it has to end in like a Nas. Udinas.
So what did you think of Nas and his...
No, I enjoyed the chapter. I am curious. I mean, I guess this is kind of skipping ahead, but Featherwitch is doing this reading of the tiles.
Yeah.
And it's very Deck of Dragons-esque.
It is.
And then later we see another reading in the next chapter, but it's also very Deck of Dragons, very, very much Deck of Dragons-esque. But it's just so interesting to see these, how in the first 4 books, whenever anyone does a reading, it is always the Deck of Dragons. And it's like, this is what we use to tell fortunes. But in this one, like, she's just using like pieces of ceramic or something. And then later they're just like big stones that part was confusing. But like, there is no formal Deck of Dragons, like it doesn't exist, but they're all still drawing on this same power. And I just thought that was a really interesting thing in this time period, I guess.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, we're really approaching kind of these same powers that undergird a lot of things from a different perspective. And we're being introduced to this new society and this new world. And there's a lot of new language that I think is very apparent to all of you when you start this book, you know, a lot of new words and a lot of new, you know, it's a big change.
Yeah. But then back to Udanas, I did enjoy when he just sees this invisible creature, Dragon Featherwitch, and he's just like, all right, it's my time to die. I gotta save Featherwitch. And he just, you know, he goes, my man goes hard, you know, big respect for that.
He puts
those are my main feelings.
puts it all out there, you know.
He puts it all out there. Yeah, exactly. All of his organs are just, they're all out there.
Ew.
Sorry.
India, what did you think of Udanis?
He reminded me a lot of what was the first book? Gardens of the Moon?
Yeah.
Yes.
He gave me Major Crocus vibes, like
Yes.
lovesick underdog vibes. So I'm curious to see if he comes out with anything interesting. Not that Crocus necessarily did, but you know, he
Take it back.
I take it back. So in that way, he obviously has a purpose, and I just would like to know what it is, because I still don't really get it. But yeah, I thought it was really, really, really gross imagery when he was getting his shoulder ripped off and then his, like, everything else. And I'm more interested in the Feather Witch when she kept them asleep while they were healing, and she was like, all right, well, don't tell anyone I can do this, and
Yeah, that was cool.
keep this in mind, that
Yeah.
whatever she said. I don't even really think that she said anything that like needed to be a secret, but I mean, she's super powerful, so like, what the hell is she gonna do next?
You're keeping an eye on her. You feel like she has untapped power.
No, I feel like it's tapped and no one knows about it, and like they said, but like, what is the point in telling me that? But I don't know with Steve, you never know. It literally could just be that, so.
Yeah.
Tricky.
Yeah.
On our way out, this is obviously we're going to head south to Lether now, Letherus, and I'd be curious if you guys had any other thoughts about the Tist Eater and seeing them here in Civilization, because we're really thrown right into it, because you got to think about how the first 4 books, the Edur are really an elusive presence that we hear a little bit about. We see, of course, a little in the Solanda and a bit in the Nascent, but really we know very little about these people and outside of their relationship to the Andi, and now here we are seeing them, India.
Okay. When they're talking about the people on the ship, and he's like, oh yeah, we don't even have to touch them. I'm just gonna do whatever. Are they the people on the Solanda?
No.
The wizard guy? King? Warlock?
No, those were like literally just Letheri who were there stealing seals and killing the seals.
But
Yeah, the
then
people-
he was like, I'm gonna do all this like unspeakable shit to them when I put them in this thing.
No, I think
did he do?
I think he was making a point that the specific people who broke this seal harvesting treaty, those people are not necessarily who this retribution's about. It's more about the state of Lether. It was my understanding of that passage.
Is that what's happening when they have the meeting then? This
Like-
great meeting.
like talking about how they should approach the? Or are you talking about the great meeting between the Eater and the Lether?
Yes.
Yes, it's about various problems, I suppose.
Yeah.
Fun. Okay, I'm done.
Any other closing Edur first impressions?
They're cool people.
I feel like they're falling into the classic trap of like they're really like they're gonna be so easily manipulated into being the bad guys of the crippled god, because they are just like whoever they just have as their king, they're so like, yeah, well, whatever he says we all do. And like they just did a king who's just like, what's up, I talked to God and you know what he said, we're gonna do this. And I really feel like they're gonna be like, yeah, that's what we do now.
I mean,
Sounds
to be
right.
fair, Josh, he did also say, I talk to God. Also, here's my huge shadow friend that if you don't obey me, will probably disembowel you.
I'm not even saying it's going to be the Warlock King. I think he's pretty cool. I think someone else is going to take power, and that dude's going to be like, all right, I'm in charge now, and here's what we do.
Edur, more like more freedom for these slaves. Am I right?
All right. Chapter 2.
I thought it was good.
It was right there. It was right there, and you missed it. Edur, I hardly knew her. It was right there, Peter.
I gotta go.
Chapter 2. Chapter 2. The Acquitter Saren Paddock guides a trader named Burrock the Pale north. She is escorted by a few native tribesmen, and she thinks of how Lether subjugated those tribes. Burrock begins drinking, and they are joined by Hull Beddick. Hull once served the court of Lether as sentinel, but is now marked as a traitor. He had befriended the local tribes, but resigned after the Empire subjugated them. Saren and Hull speak together of the Edur, the negotiating party, and if the Lethari are trying to provoke war. To the south, the middle Beddick brother, Tehol, awakens on his roof. He speaks with his manservant Bug about errands and the 3 women who came to find him. After short deliberation, he sets off and finds the women in a nearby bar. The women threaten Tehol, saying that they know what he did and who he is. After a few more vague comments, they move to have a more private conversation elsewhere. The youngest Beddick brother, Bryce, serves at the Lethari court as the king's champion. Bryce speaks with the first eunuch about Hull and what Hull might be doing in the north. Bryce briefly greets the king's sorcerer, the Sita Kura Khan, and then goes to the throne room. There, the prince, the chancellor, the queen, and her consort enter. The Prince Quillis makes a demand for the return of the Garen Eberict, but his demand is refused, and the prince nearly lashes out, but is stopped by the queen. Bryce then meets with the Sita, who is amongst tiles representing the holds. Here they speak of the 7th closure, a prophecy of rebirth for king and empire both. The divination leaves the Sita with doubts. Bryce recognizes the empty hold, the white crow, and the hold of ice. There are some unknown tiles to him, and then he confesses to the sorcerer that he is afraid that his brother Hull plans to kill Prince Quillis at the meeting between the Lethari and Edur. Tehol consults with 3 women named Shand, Hejun, and Rasara. They are half-bloods of tribes now subjugated by the Lether. Tehol helped tribe folk for his brother Hull once, and had already once almost wreaked economic havoc on the country. They want revenge and want to enlist Tehol to crash the economy of the country. Tehol says that Lether might fall to the Edur anyway, but agrees to the scheme nonetheless. Saren and Hull speak of the Edur, and Saren spots Benedus Sangar. On the subject of the Great Meeting, Hull confesses to the Acquitter that he plans to incite war between the 2 people. The brother watch continues. So many brothers in this here book. AJ, we meet the eldest Beddict brother Hull, but we are not introduced through his point of view like Tehol and Bryce. Rather, we meet him through Saren Paddock, a guider, an Acquitter and guide through the north to trade so she's escorting this trader Burrock, and she's been doing it for 7 years, I think it said. And they meet up with Hull, and they speak together primarily about the Edur and what's going on. So what was your first impression of Hull, and how did you feel about meeting him through Saren, and what do you make of her?
I think I liked meeting Hull not through his POV, because all we've heard about, or all we hear about them is just like how imposing and threatening he is. And if we were in his head, some of that would be taken away, obviously. So I just want him to stay a big, scary boy,
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the Acquitters are quote unquote blind or something, because there was something in a later chapter that said Saren Paddock is not blind, and I wasn't sure if that was literal or like figuratively she's not blind. And then somebody's like, oh, most Acquitters aren't.
I'm gonna say it's in a figurative way. I don't know anything about it.
Okay, that's fine. That was just confused me a little bit. But No, I had a good time. I think Saren Padak is going to be an interesting point of view, especially if Hull's main goal is to destroy everything, and we're just going to watch Saren just kind of stand aside and watch Hull put these two people to war with each other.
And then what did you make of we hear Hull's past about how he was kind of learned a lot about these native people, and he didn't know this information would be used during kind of the conquest and colonization of these local tribes. What did you make of that past, Josh? And clearly it has an effect on him now, right?
I thought it was one of the most interesting. Like, that is such a cool, terrible backstory. Like, I love it. I hate the Lothari so far with like a burning, like their society with a burning passion. And like, I think what's worse is like the tribes weren't like defeated in battle and like subjugated. Like, he just went and learned about it, and then they were like, all right, how can we give them the worst financial deals possible to cripple them? And it's just so, I think that's like worse in some ways, to just see them being taken advantage of such a way. I don't know. I loved it. I thought it was like this big hulking guy is responsible for the financial and economic downfall of multiple tribes. And it's just like so goofy and not what you expect, but it was so interesting.
Inge, what you gonna say?
I'm confused.
So, India, the best I can say is that the Lothari are like the most like, They have like this hyper advanced economy in terms of like how they deal with people and like the money, and it seems like there's a stock market. And Hull like went and learned all these tribes and learned all this stuff, and then it just seems like, from what I gathered, the Lothari government was like, all right, we're now going to cripple their economy and make them all destitute, and then take their lands without the use of battle. But he didn't intend
that, though.
No,
right?
No. He was the sentinel. He was told to just make contact with them, and like learn about them and be cool.
So then, why did he get like exiled?
He didn't. He self-exiled himself.
Yeah, he left.
He turned in his King's Reed, which was like the thing that lets him go, like marks him as the sentinel, I guess. Right, and he sent it back and was like, I'm out.
Which I think is so interesting, as you mentioned, because obviously Hull's a bit of a bad boy, and like, you know, he can get it, and we all like Hull and all this, but you know, well, I think it's interesting because a lot of times bad boys, you know, like they have a tragic backstory, or they have like a shadowy past, or all these things, you know, and I think his dark secret is him being complicit in the like the unfair expansion and subjugation of native tribes is like an interesting spin on like a bad boy's bad backstory. Yeah, you know,
usually it's like I learned all their defenses and then they were like killed terribly and I wanted to fight but I couldn't. But this is like, no, I just watched them all like agree to bad business deals, and it's
like I love like that. I was a part of a system, and I left, you know. Mm-hmm. So that brings us a bit to the middle brother. Then we meet him on the roof, and then he meets. There's some women, and then he later meets, and then we kind of learn more that these women are trying to crash the economy in recompense because they're from these local tribes that were kind of subjugated and destroyed. Andrew, what do you make of Tehol, this middle brother who is hanging out on a roof, and he's got a bit of an attitude?
Yeah, he acts a lot like a middle sibling, strange and unpredictable.
Are you guys all youngest siblings?
I'm the youngest. Yeah. Power too.
What?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Favorites. Spoiled, loved, most. That's what they say.
Yeah, I'm a real Benedict Sengar when it comes down to it. So
I'm more of a Ross.
I think AJ's more of a Bryce.
So, Ange, you were saying?
I lost my train of thought. Oh yes, Tehol.
It's not good, no matter what you do.
He's. I don't understand how he's so strange, yet he made so much money doing who knows what, just screwing the stock market, I guess. My only question is, when he meets with the women and they're like, we know what you did, and he's like, no, you don't. I didn't do anything. What do you mean?
I've never done anything in my life.
Why? Where? He lost the money? He hid the money.
Yes.
Why?
so that it would
'Cause it
get
was a
counted
lot.
as a loss, and then he could use it without anyone knowing what it was being used for.
But he lives
He used it to buy some of those, to give it to those island people, I think.
Yeah.
where he set up the island.
Yeah, he set up
I see.
he like set up an island for
So is he like fake crazy, or is he
Nah, I think
actually crazy?
I think the best I can say is it seems like he used the system to do a good thing, but then he like hates the system so much he would rather just like kind of wither away and die than continue like being part of it, I guess. I don't know. I thought they were hinting that maybe he is like planning on eventually doing another big thing, and they're just kind of getting him there faster. But I really couldn't tell.
Mm.
It
I
was
see.
it was a lot.
And they're trying to take down this system because they're all halves.
Yes.
half bloods of some of these tribes
the word.
from the north in between Lether and the Edur that have been already.
And I'd imagine the Lethari did some fucked up stuff there, and now they're like, we're gonna take you down the best way we know how, tanking your economy, which is like way more welcomed than like, we're just gonna come and kill all of you. I must say.
Well, yeah, and it's so much more fitting because like their whole thing is this like intricate economy, and to like have it be crumble beneath them would be the ultimate like thing. Also, can I just hop in right here and say,
Are we going
like-
to Josh's economic corners again?
yes. Well, and it's a bit of I just want to loud Steve and also tell him he's the worst at the same time, because I've read so many medieval European fantasy books where everyone has a system that's like, oi, Gov, I've got 2 crowns. 2 crowns. Well, I can give you, and it's just like, there's like a couple words for different types of money, but they all are kind of based around like a crown is made of gold, and then like a farthing is made of copper, a stallion's made of silver, like shit like that, right? And these people are like, we've got 7 words, and I'm not even positive that any of them have a physical representation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I kind of think that they're all just numbers on spreadsheets, is what it really feels like. And I love that he's just like really taken that and just made it the worst system imaginable.
Well, I'll say this: Steve never lets up an opportunity to make up a new word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's just a
Well,
bit of fun,
honestly, I
but-
think it would be even better. I think it would be even better if he made up new words. Instead, he uses words like third and dock and peak, which all have real meanings.
Yeah.
He's like, no, this is money now.
Well, but then he uses all these made up words for the different positions in like when we see the scenes with Bryce. Because he's a Finnegal, which is like a cap. You have to go to the glossary like 80 times to get all that. And the Petra's like a general, the Cena's the mage. But it's like the Cena has a name. We've not even met a second one yet. Like he doesn't need a title.
It's new book, new world, new continent. We're doing a whole new language.
Also, I don't know about you guys. I definitely at first thought that the Finnegal was another name for King's Champion, but then they were just calling fucking everyone Finnegal, and I was like, why are there 8 King's Champions? And eventually I had to go in the back and be like, oh, he's the King's Champion and just kind of a captain. That makes perfect 100% sense.
So that brings us to the King's Court, and it is, I would say this is probably, in my opinion, the part of these first 2 chapters that involve the most complicated stuff. I mean, you get introduced to a lot of characters really fast, and there's a lot of like who's related to who. You got to kind of,
And they have multiple names, which is really annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which
And he thinks it makes it better by like calling them one name and then, but like you, like in writing, like saying their other name. But like, I really didn't like it. It was very hard to follow.
No, it's a major thing, and Steve always does it, where it's like India also has a name like,
What is it? The Cetus?
Yeah, like the hypnotist India, and then we call her India half the time, and we call her the hypnotist the other half of the time, and then usually
but
there's
it's
like a
India,
third
will
name.
you do this? The hypnotist said.
Right, yeah,
And
we
I'm
don't
like,
we don't say India is a hypnotist and then say the hypnotist said. It's just like, here's India's name, and then all of a sudden now we're referring to her as the hypnotist.
It pisses me off. It's very, very, very. It just makes this a lot more difficult.
I feel like it's one of those things I've just gotten so accustomed to, so it's like...
You'd think.
I wouldn't defend... I don't know if it's good or not, I just feel like I'm so far down the river of,
This is just what it is at this point.
Yeah. I think I
Yeah.
read the word Finad like 8 times, and I was like, oh, the Finad is Bryce also. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's the word Fined, which is like anyone, it seems like, that is important in the military, but not as important as a Petra.
So, Josh, it sounds like you really combed through this all. What did you make of this Big Bryce introduction?
I actually loved it for a very specific reason, which is that it feels like for the first time in any book or media I've consumed that besides, I guess, Game of Thrones, but it feels like the eunuch is a cool dude who is just kind of like a great advisor to the king and doesn't have some ulterior motive to like take over. You know what I mean? Like every Game of Thrones has Varys, who like is good kind of by the end in some ways, but like a lot of the times is scheming. And like I've read plenty of other books where like there's a eunuch character and they're always in the background just kind of scheming, but this guy's just like, let's be cool and help the king. And I like that. It's very good. My question though is, why the fuck does the mage care so much about Bryce? Like the mage is like, Bryce is a cool dude and I like him and he gets to see all this stuff. Why is that? Like, why are they all so... Is he just like a really good dude?
Do you not think he is?
I don't know him enough. Do they all know him? That's what I'm asking. Like, it was very strange that he's like made the king's champion, immediately being involved in schemes, which I get from like I get the scheme with Petra and the prince coming in, but I don't fully understand what the first eunuch and the mage are like giving him all this super important information. Unless the king's champion is like a very, very, very powerful position, but it really feels like he's just a bodyguard who like also hasn't even got to see the king, it feels like. I don't know. I had many questions about that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. You're only getting a glimpse of the court, right?
Okay. All right. All will be revealed.
Something like that.
All right.
AJ, what did you make of meeting Bryce? And then also, additionally, we go down and he confers with the Sita Kurakan, and there is this reading that you alluded to earlier.
Yeah, I like Bryce. He seems like a neat character. He can move real quiet.
I can't call him Bryce. It doesn't feel right.
What,
I literally just shared this. Maybe we pivot to Briss.
I don't like
I just
Briss
can't
either.
because that's the circumcision ceremony for Jewish baby boys. We can't call him the Briss.
What
Is
about
it
Bryce?
Breeze? I like Breeze.
What about
Breeze
Bree?
makes me
like
think of
the
Drew
cheese?
Breeze.
I'm gonna say
He's
Bryce.
still a douchebag.
You guys can say Breeze. I'll say Bryce.
I feel like I'm going to maybe stick with Bryce. I feel...
Cool. Okay, just like Steve, we're all going by our own pronunciation, our own word. Doesn't matter.
So anyway.
Got him.
So I enjoyed learning about Bryce and stuff and realizing that they're a good fighter and can move real quiet. But the Deck of Dragons, the proto Deck of Dragons reading, I guess.
The holds.
Was, the holds and the tiles.
Let's unpack that for End, please.
So the Sita Kurakan takes Bryce down into the depths of the castle, I guess, or whatever, and they basically do a Deck of Dragons reading, but it's like
With the tiles.
With tiles, but the Sita makes it sound like not everybody can like see the tiles or something, or like like read them for what they are.
Yeah,
Am I right?
I think because he was like testing to see if Breeze
could do it, right?
He was testing to see if Breeze could actually see what he was seeing.
Okay, cool. That is what I thought. And now thinking about that even further, Josh, because you're asking why the Sita and stuff are making a big deal out of him. I think that is part of the reason, because it doesn't seem like a thing in again, going back to current day quote unquote Malazan stuff, like only certain people can really read the deck, right? It seems kind of like a parent situation where it's like he's kind of just like, oh yeah, I know what this says, and then they're like, oh, that's cool.
I've now thought about it, and the other two brothers are so cool. They probably, I guess, maybe they were like, the third one's gotta be up to snuff too. I guess he'll probably be cool enough to read this.
Yeah, probably.
That's like the only. That's all I've got.
He's the youngest brother. You think it's like a pity inclusion?
Yeah,
but no,
that's why we're friends, Peter.
But yeah, it's because when they go to the tiles and Bryce says that he can read it, the Sita says, then you see truly good. An unhinged mind would reveal itself at this moment. Its vision poisoned with fear and malice. And then they talk about
right.
They talk about how Bryce can like sense the feelings from the cards and all, or the tiles rather, and all that stuff. So that is very cool, and I'm curious to see when and how Bryce pops off. Because there's definitely going to be a moment where he's like, "Oh yes, I am the Hound of Shadow now." Like, there's going to be one of those moments.
Yes, 100%. There's going to be some bullshit.
So
can I tell you, it is amazing that there are two connected but completely different sources of like the Holds and the Deck of Dragons, and we just have to know both of them. It's too much.
It took me until this point to realize that, like, oh, these are the same thing, and the Holds are like the houses. Even though they said the Azath Holds, I was like,
I don't think they're the same. I think the Holds are earlier versions, and the houses have ascendants, and I don't know. I think the Holds are different. They're the more ancient version.
Yeah, but like the Holds will become the houses, so they might as well just be the same thing, right?
Do they?
They said Azath Hold, so I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
But
and like the Hold of Ice is Omtos Falak. Like they don't say that, but like it's a Hold of Ice. Like what else?
I don't know, because the Azath they're called houses because they're literally buildings that come out of the ground.
Sure, but they're India.
I just agreed with AJ. I thought because they said, that's where they put the bad people.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't think that would become like the House Shadow and House, all that stuff. I thought they were different things.
No, I mean, if they're different things, that's wild.
Well, that's what I thought, because Perrin traveled through the Holds and like was looking at the Holds, and he never was just like he went to the Beast Throne and like put Tog there, and it wasn't like, yes, the Beast Throne, also known as this house. Like that wasn't a thing. Well,
they might not
separate.
Know. It's very old knowledge. Maybe. I imagine.
Pete?
I don't know.
Are they separate?
Pete's just letting us flounder. He's just letting us.
Seems like something we will reveal in time. Inch, if you had to go off the bat, here we go. Pick a brother. I would like a Sengar brother. I would like a Bedek brother. Where are we at?
I'm ready.
Of like preference?
Well, just this week's Who's on Your Brother radar,
Oh, I like this. Okay. On my brother radar is what is that little fucker's name?
The one with an R?
Yeah.
Rulad.
Actually, no. From the Sengars, I'm going to say Benidas.
That's the right choice.
Benidas, the youngest
that dude
brother.
Rules.
Because what is he doing? He's popping up in chapters, man. So I'm like, I don't know what game he's playing here. I don't know. All we knew before was that he was on a journey, but now he's popping up in the end of chapter 2.
Oh, hello.
So that's who my eye is on for the Sengar brothers. I don't know what he's doing, but I'm intrigued. And then for the other brothers,
the Bedek brothers.
Yes. I guess I'm gonna have to go with Hull. Fascinated.
I want to go next.
All right, Josh, you seem like an eager beaver. What's on your brother watch?
He's excited.
I am obsessed with Tehol, the middle brother of the Bedeks. I think I love him. Yes. I want to be with him and Bug. I would read books and books of just them.
We didn't even talk about Bug. I love Bug. Big Bug head over here.
I'm obsessed with the two of them, and that is my favorite. And yes, Benadas, because, I don't know, I think Fear's too honor-bound, and Rulad's a little prick, and I don't know, Troll's Troll. He's the straight man.
We know him.
You seem pretty hard on Rulad over there, bro.
I don't like Rulad at all.
All we see from Rulad is that he's like trying to posture in front of his brother's girlfriend.
Well, he's just an unblooded loser.
Well, when your older brother's engaged and then you're trying really hard to peacock and then you call your middle brother a loser for not liking to kill people. You guys just don't interact with your older brothers like I do.
When you haven't even actually killed anybody yet.
Yeah, it's like, come on, bro.
What a nerd. A knob, if you will.
A knob.
And AJ, do you have any Who's on Your Brother watch?
So I do. I think for the Troll brothers, or the Sengar brothers rather, I am going to say Benedis, because like we know about the others, at least in some regard. We've only heard tales of Benedis.
It's true.
I want to find Troll more interesting, but right now it's...
Yeah, I wanted to check in since you were a big troll. I think you were the most into Troll when we read House of Chains.
Yes. Easily.
So what did you make of him coming into this new? We're in the troll zone. Welcome.
We're in the troll zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was surprised that he popped up when he, like, as early as he did.
Immediately.
Because as you, Josh, and I, Pete, have talked about, in the Tales of Bocaline and Corporal Broach, we don't meet Bocaline and Corporal Broach for like 6 chapters.
No,
so
Steve will take a winding approach, but really after the prologue, we fucking hit the ground running. Troll's here.
It's like,
we see the seals, the conflict's happening.
Right, yeah. So I was a little caught off guard by that, but, I was happy to see my boy, obviously. But it was interesting to see, I think the most interesting thing that struck me about Troll was when he was like, oh yeah, the guy basically flipped me off, so I shot him through the chest with a spear. I was like,
killed that dude.
this is a big different energy that we're coming from right here. So I'm curious to see how that goes and to see if he ever becomes the Troll that we know in House of Chains in this book, because I could see it being like he just kind of is this kind of Troll until the very end of this, or whenever he gets chained or whatever. And then kind of changes in House of Change into the Troll that I know and love. The
very sad Troll that India does.
The very sad Troll, right,
India
exactly.
very distinctly does not love.
Yeah. And then in terms of the Beedict brothers, I do agree with Josh. I think they're all pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, they are.
Are you choosing the Beedict brothers over the Sengar brothers?
Yes.
Right now, yeah, absolutely.
No doubt.
Yeah. And I do think it's very cool that we get Tehol and Bryce's POVs, but we don't get Hull's, which is interesting.
Withholding.
Just something they're withholding.
Fucking got him, dude.
But no, yeah, I love the Tehol and Bug stuff.
They're withholding.
That's good.
They're withholding.
There we go. The word hold is in it. Anyway, I am... What was I saying? Fuck.
Doesn't matter. The podcast is over. We're on our way home. We peaked.
I was making a point. I do not remember. Oh, I like
peaked?
duos.
That's 3 million docs.
I like duos, and the only duo we've come across so far is Tehol and Bug and Udanos and Featherwitch, actually, which I didn't think about. Both of which...
I'm going to say... Wait, who was the first one you said?
Tehol and Bug.
I think Hull and the Acquitter, I think they're going to be a fun duo.
I would like to loop around, because we didn't really talk about Saren much. We had a very Hull-focused conversation.
I would love to... Oh, yeah,
sorry.
I have a question. It really feels like taxi cab medals when we talk about how many Acquitters there's allowed to be, and then there's like a bidding, to see who gets to have one of the Acquitters. It's like a wild system, right?
Sorry, you're going to need to explain to me taxi cab medals.
Where are you getting this information from?
What?
What?
When we meet whatever her name is, Saren. So she's an Acquitter. She's not indentured, but she owes her services to Baruch for 10 years.
Right.
And they talk about how 6 years ago, the last time that they had a great meeting and had a pact, what the Edur decided is that they could only be traded to, they would only trade with people who are led by an Acquitter. Okay, so they weren't flooded with Lethari people trying to make bad deals with them. And then they vetted the Acquitters, and then there were 10 of them, and who got to use them was decided by highest bidder.
Okay, I missed that whole part.
So there's only 10 people allowed to lead caravans to trade with the Tista Eater.
So they chose Saren, and then she gets told, I'm gonna kill them, and do with that what she will.
Right.
Yeah. And she's 6 years into this contract with this dude. She keeps seeing 4 more years, maybe. And I thought at first I thought, was he gonna like screw her over? And then it's like, no, he's a crippling drug addiction due to the stress from his job, and he's gonna send himself to an early grave. And I was like, oh, okay, not what I expected.
I think it's an interesting point you bring up, Josh, in talking about how that system is working to exclude. I don't know. I hadn't really been thinking about it like that, and it's an interesting point to bring up because I think talking about systems, economic systems, is something I'm keeping on my mind. This book,
Well, and I wonder if it was the Tista Eater's idea because they saw with what Hull did inadvertently with those other groups, where it's just like mass unregulated trading that caused their downfall. I wonder if they were like, nope, we're gonna accept certain people. They have to be led by these people that we think are chill.
Yeah, and I just wanted to loop around because I know I was kind of trying to wrap up with the Brother Watch thing, but I did want to just touch on Saren. So any thoughts you wanted to share, India or anyone? I'd be remiss to go out if we we didn't really talk about her.
I love the whole stone that makes her less arthritic. That was so wild.
Oh yeah, the worm stone. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your impression of her, Inge?
I don't really have much of an idea about her yet. I don't really think that they gave much away about her. She just seems kind of guarded, I guess. And I don't know. I don't really know what to make of her, and I don't really know where this story is even going yet. It was very, I guess, open. So I think that she's going to be, I hope, someone interesting. She's the only, lady that we have around, really, except for that queen. So yeah, I don't really have any opinion, but I hope that she is interesting and we learn more about who she is and where she comes from.
Well, I guess.
Also, quickly, she dated Hull. They had a thing.
Definitely, right? Definitely they, had some sort of relationship.
They're vibing. That's for sure.
Yeah. And she definitely feels like she took advantage of Sad Boy Hull and that it was a mistake.
I'm just glad we were all there then.
Yeah, I don't think Hull is as upset about it, though, as she thinks he is. But I can't say.
Hull seems pretty singular in his thought processes.
Yeah.
Not to, I don't want to be too hard on him, but outwardly he doesn't seem like he thinks about much.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. I think that brings to the end our discussion of the first 2 chapters of Midnight Tides. We're all excited to kick off the reading of this 5th book. Next week on the show.
I was gonna say, honestly, this opening has me way more excited than the opening of House of Chains did. I'm pretty hype.
Yeah. India?
I'm not hype. I'm not hype.
Anytime there's a chance to dismantle the economy.
No, I get it. I understand the excitement. I'm right there with you. Less war scenes. That's fun for Ind. Yeah. However, starting over is not my favorite. So we are brand new. We are learning new things. And it is a hard enough time already reading these books.
You're feeling a little pain from the start, the square oneness of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the number of characters that were introduced in 2 chapters is obscene. Yeah. And I just have a feeling that the next 3 chapters, 2 chapters, whatever we end up reading, we're going to meet an entirely new ensemble of people. So, just planning ahead, setting my expectations low.
I get that, and I think it's something I'd love to touch on at the end of the book. But I think I really hear you on that. I think starting over at this point is a big leap the reader has to make, So I hear you.
He makes us work for it.
Yeah, that's true okay. Now, ain't it? So we're going to post our reading schedule to Twitter as we do, but next episode we're going to be reading chapters 3 and 4 and cruising our way through book 5. We're looking forward to it. Talking brothers, talking Lether, talking Edur, talking so much of the great stuff in this book. Let us know what you think of the show at 10verybigbooks at Gmail and Twitter. And before you go, I want to get a quick prediction for where we think this story's going and where we think what the path that's going to lead Troll to being shorn from his people at the beginning of House of Chains. Josh, get a prediction for this book. Hit me, 3, 2, 1.
They're going to find this thing of ice, and it's going to be bad for them, and Troll's going to speak against it, and he's going to be outvoted by his brothers and labeled a traitor.
Indy, any predictions for the book, since we're right at the outset of it?
I think that he was like, don't touch it. I think Troll's going to fucking touch it with those bare hands.
Ooh.
And they're going to be pissed.
AJ, any predictions you wanted to plug? You had a prediction for me over text. I didn't know if you were trying to plug it on the show.
No, I'm not trying to make that public. That's a secret prediction.
It's a secret prediction.
I hate the secret prediction.
Curious.
He only wants credit if it's correct. He doesn't want the shame if it's not correct.
Right, honestly, right. I hesitated to text you, Pete, because I was like, well, if it's wrong, I'm going to seem like a fool. So I'm not going to.
Well, I'll let you know. Yeah. I've already shared it with everyone who's reread the books. So
extremely good. Well, that's fine. That's not the prediction I was going to bring up anyway. But I think India's right. I think Troll is going to touch the thing.
He's gonna touch the butt.
Yeah, I don't think the big giant is gonna I think we're just gonna see it. I don't think it's really gonna come into a whole lot of play. if I'm being honest.
We even forgot to talk about the giant. We opened the show with it, or we talked about it, we mentioned it, and we didn't even talk about it. I fucking love that passage. I think it's great. I just love the imagery in it, and I fucking love the giant in the sea looking into the darkness. I'm so into it, and that's me and Josh talked about him in our Gardens of the Moon epigraph. I love when Steve's writing in a mosaic of obfuscatory imagery way. Yeah. I love that type of poetry, right? Sometimes, and I really loved the opening to this part.
Oh, look out, folks. Coming up soon, Dead House Gates Epigraphs double feature with Peter and I's review of Hubie Halloween.
That's right. It's a 2-for-1, baby. It's coming out soon. Look for it.
Hello, everyone. Producer AJ here, doing this quickly before The Bachelorette comes on. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. It is so great to finally be getting into Midnight Tides. You can let us know your thoughts about this and all of our other episodes on Twitter at 10verybigbooks or via email 10verybigbooks@gmail.com. If you'd like to join the conversation on Discord, you can head on over to bit.ly/VBB Discord and join everyone there. That's capital V, capital B, capital B, capital D, Discord. That link will also be in the show notes. If you'd like to check out our Patreon, you can visit the link in the show notes or head on over to patreon.com/10verybigbooks. At the time of this recording, we are at 139 patrons and $477 a month. Thank you so much to anyone who has donated any amount. There are a few people have upped their donation amounts. I'm really blown away by that. Thank you so much. And really quick, I just want to say, when Pete and I first broached the idea of starting a Patreon back before House of Chains, we said we'd be happy if we reached $100 a month before the end of the year. So the fact that we are approaching $500 in just 4 months is absolutely mind-boggling. Thank you so much for helping us continue to be able to create more and more stuff under the umbrella of the show. We really will never be able to express our gratitude enough. So thank you. And as always, thank you so very much to Dan Geserick for making our spectacular logo. You can follow him on Twitter at Dan Geserick for the same tweets as last episode. And of course, the wonderful music in today's episode is by the one and only Amaranthin from their album Simulant Rain, which you can find along with their other music on bandcamp.com. Links to their pages will be in the show notes. And 10 Very Big Books will be back in 2 weeks on November 20th with chapters 3, 4, and 5 of Midnight Tides. Talk to you then. And thank you so much for listening.